how about this one, though? We get you in the best shape you can be, and then that last 10 weeks, Proviron, 50 milligrams every day.
I like it. I don't disagree with that at all.
How much hardening do you think you get from Proviron?
When you're already in shape? A good 12 to 15%.
Yeah, so like you could kind of get the masked-like look,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, there's a reason why we add Proviron in over the last 3-4 weeks of a contest prep to just get those finishing touches, the detail level out.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Andrew Berry and myself, Scott McNally. All of our programming is brought to you by, of course, TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there. I just placed an order for the cookie butter whey isolate. Oh my God, I'm loving that flavor. We're also, use our code THINK over there. Forgot if I plugged that or not. I just got sidetracked with that flavor. We're also brought to you by supplementsource.ca for our Canadians. Great deals that do change week to week, so keep checking the site back for good deals. And, of course, Patreon. We have a couple of physique critiques from Patreon today. We've got your listener questions, but we're going to start up with like one of those blowout, grabber, attention-getting questions. And we did talk about this maybe 6 weeks ago, Andrew, on drugs and stuff. And that was, now that Mast and Primo aren't available, how do we get the same effect with other compounds?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all running into a little bit of shortage with that with our clients, or, at least myself, I stocked up on some of that stuff. I tell all my clients, like, keep a pharmacy on hand. You just never know when you're going to want this or that, or when I'm going to want you to have this or that.
Yeah.
But, to answer the question, how do we get around achieving a look that we're getting from DHT-like compounds like Primobolan and Masteron when we're out of them? And I think the simple answer is you're going to have to include some form of DHT drug, like an Anavar or Winstrol.
Yep.
Maybe both, actually. And my answer would probably be a testosterone base, like you would be using with either one of those, Masteron or Primobolan. I would probably stick with EQ, and then I would probably run both Anavar and Winstrol. I feel like Anavar gives me a little bit more of a pump look, whereas the Winstrol is going to give a little bit more of that drier look. Kind of what you would get with the Primobolan Masteron combo, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In terms of doses, let's say someone's running a contest prep stack where they're doing something like, let's just say an average of 600 milligrams of testosterone and maybe, 300 Mast, 300 Primobolan. Okay. Maybe a little bit higher on the Primo and Masteron. We'll say 400 of each just for giggles. I would probably run the EQ equal to my testosterone, so like a 600 there. And then I would be doing probably a 50 milligrams of both Winstrol and Anavar. And I think you're going to be able to achieve a very similar look with running those compounds. What do you think?
Yeah, so I guess here's a thought. I know that Primo and Mast have gotten so popular because in part people are running them year round. There's the estrogen control element that everybody wants to get, and I think we get that more from Primo than we do from Mast. And I think we can get that from EQ, but I don't think it's across the board for everyone. But I am seeing it to a degree, and I think part of it too has to do with the ratio. Like, are you on 700 tests, 300 EQ? Well, there's that. I don't think it has as strong an effect as, say, lesser Primo might. Of course, everybody's different. So from that regard, especially like off season, then, just to get the estrogen control effect, I would look at equipoise for sure. And really, here's the other thing is that years back when I started, and it makes me sound old, which I am getting old now, but man, back then we didn't look at the DHTs until the contest prep, and it was really like the last 8 weeks that we started adding them in anyway. And maybe we just have to go back to the old school kind of bubblier, rounder look in the off season,
Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't think that might be a bad thing. What if we find this, Andrew? Mast and Primo are gone and everybody freaking explodes. They're taking more tests in EQ and other compounds now, and all of a sudden they start going really crazy. I'll say this though, last 8 weeks, that's I would probably pick Winstrol, would be my route. And I might do, I mean, honestly, if we were going to use Tren, then we were going to work Tren in the way we'd work it in regardless, which is generally, for me, 8 weeks out on average. Tren Ace, and usually we can go with no more than 200 per week. And that's for really almost any level of contest prep, competitor. I've found that you don't need to go crazy high with it. And maybe we even do a little bit less if you wanted to. If we're talking just somebody who, hold on a second, I'm interrupting myself. And if we did that, then at maybe 4 to 5 weeks out, we could add that Winstrol in at 50, and maybe even for the last week or two, maybe even go to a little higher, 75, even 100. And if my other thought would be, I think a lot of our guys are non-competitors. Okay. So in that case, I mean, what would we do for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, like a lot of situations, whether it's Primobolan, Masteron, or any PED, the dosing is going to be a little bit lower. So let's say you're 40 years old, like I am, right? And you want to achieve a nice, let's say an 8 to 10 week outlook, and that's where you like to stay for the most part, right? I like your option, I like my option, but I would just say the doses probably don't need to be as high. You're not getting competitively on stage. You don't need to be 225 pounds shredded. So why use those doses? So give you a number. Let's say I mean, as someone that's doing really well with a really low dose of test, just injections daily, I would say, maybe an average of 30 milligrams of testosterone a day. Okay, so what's that? 3 times? That's 210 milligrams a week, right? Somewhere in that ballpark. And then I would probably, in that situation, I would probably just stick with Winstrol and Anavar. So maybe 25 and 25 of each, and then maybe titrate in just a little bit of Tren, 15 to 20 milligrams a day. That's one, that one maybe I'd probably run for 6 weeks at a time, and then I'd pull some back out. So, because my mindset here is like, okay, you want to achieve a certain look, but you don't want to take the inherent risks that come with taking massive doses of PEDs. That people that are in contest prep, they know that, when they're doing those things, I'm at risk for taking minutes off my life at the back end in some way, shape, or form if I'm not properly.
You have an end date in sight. It's a short term,
Yeah. But if we're talking about a sustainable thing, I would probably bring the Tren in and I'd bring it back out. I'd bring it back in. Maybe a 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, like every other month,
Yeah.
And I would advise people, if they're going to try to do that, get your labs done, at least, every other month for the first 3 months to see if you can get a pattern of health, maintaining health, and then, or maybe it gets a little bit salty, and then you bring it back to baseline,
Ooh, I got one. I got one that I didn't think about when I talked about this with Dave either. So non-competitor. I generally look at that as being, we want to get you looking good, and then say keep you looking good for the summer. So we're not looking to peak for 1 hour of one day. We're trying to think of what is more sustainable. How about this? So number one, you and I both know, and our audience knows too, if they've gotten in shape, that condition is everything. If you get in really good shape, if you're just even on a modest dose to test, you're going to look nasty. In fact, I have a client, if I would have asked him, he probably would have let me put his pictures up, and you'd ask me like, well, how much DHT is he taking? He's taking just TRT, and he is going to look harder than some guys on stage that are juiced up. So how about this one though? We get you in the best shape you can be, and then that last 10 weeks, Proviron, 50 milligrams every day.
I like it. I don't disagree with that at all.
How much hardening do you think you get from Proviron?
When you're already in shape? A good 12 to 15%.
Yeah, so like you could kind of get the masked-like look,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, there's a reason why we add Proviron in over the last 3-4 weeks of a contest prep, to just get those finishing touches, the detail level out. On that note, what's as high as you go on like Proviron over the last, let's say, 8 to 10 days?
Dude, I honestly, man, I haven't used a lot of it. I feel like it's, and I was going to ask you, do you feel like it's falling by the wayside to a degree? But I would go up to 100.
Okay. So I used to only go as high as 100, but more prevalently now I'm bringing it as high as 150. And I'll be honest, I'll do the same thing with Winstrol over the last 4 to 5 days. So I'm just, take home point. I'm not talking for when you start Winstrol, you're running 150 milligrams a day for 6-8 weeks. I'm saying for the last 4 to 5 days, I do drive that up. But keep in mind, we're also pulling injectables out usually about a week out. So, your actual total load of PEDs is going down in that final week.
Yeah. I think my big limiting factor with Proviron is cost. Because the more, so I'm kind of like, how much can we take? But then how much do you have too? And then we try to figure out, okay, well, you can do this many per day for the next whatever weeks.
I'll say this also too, because it's an issue I run into a lot with clients, and I know other coaches do too. And coaches are always scrambling, calling each other, texting each other. Hey, do you have any clients locally that have this or that? Guys, when you set up your contest prep, pretend like your show is actually like 3 weeks after the date that you set up, because you might actually want to do another show the following weekend or 2 weeks later. Yeah. But you just never know. I would rather have someone have half a bottle of this left over than to be half a bottle short and be scrambling, counting down the pills and begging buddies, hey, can I get 3 tabs of you for Thursday, and then can I get 3 tabs from someone else for Friday? That's always stressful to a coach when it's like, dude, you knew we were doing the show, and you can count the how many pills you have, and roughly I gave you an outline at the beginning of prep of what to expect. You didn't even get the amount that's going to cover what to expect. It's kind of annoying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think too, it's a hard conversation to explain, but if like, okay, so I need 30 doses, I have 3 vials, you assume that's 30 milliliters, but then you draw to the one, and there's that little dead space in the syringe where the first couple cycles I did, I was like, man, they're shorting me, I only got 8 mils out of this.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
It's like, how would you counteract that? I'd tell people, like, draw to the 8, you know what I mean?
My thing is always have extra bottles.
Yeah,
like just buy an extra bottle.
Yeah, that's probably easier.
Yeah, and I know our sport's expensive, and our our coaching fees and the travel and everything that goes into competing. But at the end of the day, for you to achieve your absolute best look, you're not going to spend an extra $250. You just spent $2,000 or whatever on this whole prep, or $5,000, whatever it might be. You're not going to spend an extra $250 to make sure you have one extra bottle of 3 or 4 of these things to make sure you're covered through the end of your prep.
Yeah.
That always gets me. Oh, I didn't want to have stuff laying around. It's like, well, you're going to prep again. You told me you wanted to do nationals the year after. It's not going to expire in 6 or 8 months, so you're already got a jump start on your stash for next time.
That's how I ended up with my box that Dave has talked about. Dave's like, every time you've run anything over the past several years, you just happen to have a little bit of this. That was my extras.
He is so right about that, because I can see my box right now, actually.
My box is pretty empty now at this point, I'll be honest. Yeah, I've used it mostly up, except for the Tren,
And that way, if you're buying a fresh amount of stuff for your stack for this next contest prep or this next off season, and you have half a bottle Winstrol and half a bottle of Anavar and half a bottle of Proviron, or maybe you have 3 of them because you did 3 preps over the last 6 years. Yeah. So you actually have probably enough for your whole contest prep, but still order your stack.
Yeah. Well, I think we gave him some good take-home points on that one. What do you think?
I do.
All right. If you're in the market for protein powder, check out TrueNutrition.com. They literally have like every protein powder under the sun. I go with their cold filtered whey isolate or their Team Skip blend. I prefer the chocolate peanut butter cup, but there's a few flavors that I like. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Victoria, my wife, she gets the pea protein isolate. It's rare to find a pea isolate. Most of them are concentrate, so the isolate is super low in carbs. Regardless of your diet, they will have a protein powder for you, and you get to flavor it how you want and buy it by however pounds you want. So check them out, TrueNutrition.com. They're the first company that ever supported our podcasting, so we support them. You can support us by shopping with True Nutrition and using our code THINK. So we have 2 physique critiques.
Nice.
I'm going to start with one of these, and bear with me a little bit, because they're not going to be in perfect order here.
Sure.
And I'm still getting used to doing the screen share on this particular program. But he is a new Patreon member, so I want to say thank you to him very much. And it's Marino is his name.
Okay. And
he says, what's up, guys? Listen to the show for 2 years. Absolutely love it. Okay, physique critique. Let me see if he gives me any information. He says, I'd be interested to hear your honest opinions on my potential in bodybuilding. I've competed in one show in 2023 as a middleweight. Since then, I've battled injuries, including a pec tear, but now I am back in full swing. My goal is to grow into the light heavies and try to get a pro card. I'm currently 5 weeks into a grow phase at 188 pounds for my current check-in.
Okay.
I don't see the pec tear, do you?
So I really squinted right in here, and this is the best pec tear I've ever seen.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's no deformity. So I would also ask him, when did he tear his pec and how did he do it? And I bet it was after his contest prep when he felt really strong and the muscles are, full of fluid and glycogen again, but the joints are just a month or two behind. Because I've had clients do that. I've had partial tears myself, not even doing your typical bench press exercises, just from getting strong very quickly.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a good physique. He's got a nice taper. His shoulders tie into his waist really well. He's got a nice taper there. From the front, what I'm seeing is he just needs more. He's got a good structure. I think he just needs more of everything. Let's see.
Good shape there in that front double, right? And look at those quads.
I mean
and to think he's only, I don't know how tall he is, but I wouldn't peg him as 180 something pounds right now. You know what I mean? I would have already said he looked like a light heavy to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like if you would have said he was floating at 215 or something like that, I would have been totally believing that. It looks like, when he gets lean, his legs probably look really nice because you can still see his sartorial lines coming through at this body weight. Yeah, let's see that back shot.
All right, here's rear relaxed. I think he had something too with a hamstring. I didn't read all of it here.
Okay.
But he said, what was it? September 2023, I was doing barbell rows, went down for rep 7 and felt a pop. Come up to find out it was a partial tear of my PSL. All the pain I felt was right behind my knee and in the hamstring.
I think we've all had those.
Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it was
if you've had some tears and injuries, man, like you've got the best recovery possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with what I said. He just needs to keep growing and he needs more of everything.
Yeah.
I don't see a major structural weakness. I don't see a major muscle deficiency. If I had to nitpick, I would say maybe the back does need more than the others, I guess. But let's see the front lat spread.
Let's see. Here's the front lat spread.
Yeah, just more.
Yeah.
I wish I could give him some more concrete.
I got one for him.
What do you got?
And he probably already knows this. If he popped a hamstring fiber and tore something down there and he's a little bit scared, here's the deal, man. I feel like when you have a strong muscle part like quads, then the opposing muscle part needs to be that much better to not look weak. You know what I mean? So when he turns around, I feel like the hams could be stronger. Let's see a side shot, see how the side leg looks. He's got a hamstring drop, so
yeah,
that is there. But I would like to see maybe more hams and glutes.
Yep.
But more, more back work, especially if you can do deadlifts. I feel like those things are probably, like you said, man, just keep growing and it's going to come,
Yeah, I would just take your time. I wouldn't say off these pictures that I would, if I had an athlete like this, that I'd be like, oh, we're definitely going to get a pro card. But I would say everything happens the right way. You could land in a first call out for sure, and then it's just about whoever shows up.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as like to throw any shade or to dampen
5-5.
Anyone's dreams or goals. But could he absolutely turn pro? Yes. With just more time and volume and volumization of his tissue, absolutely. He's got a good structure.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, man. All right, I'll bring up the other one here. Give me just a minute. You can fill for me, Andrew. You know?
For sure, absolutely. Let's see what we got in the comments right now. Thanks for the reply to the email, Scott. This is from Sharp.
Oh, Matt Sharp. He's just Matt Sharp started a podcast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay.
What he does is he coaches himself. He always buys significantly more than he needs. In reference to the last topic that we talked about, he says he's got drawers full. See, that's what I'm talking about.
My
See,
man.
so now he doesn't have to get mad at himself for not having stuff ahead
Right?
of time.
All right, I got us here.
Oh, cool.
All right, so hold on just a second here, and I want to bring her email up. Let's see. I thought I was all set. Okay, so this is Chelsea, and this is her reminder email. So I know I can tell you offhand while you look at this front shot that she's been competing in both figure and women's physique. Here's her email. She says she's competed twice now. My first show, I got first place in women's physique, and second in figure. Went to nationals, got third place in women's physique and fourth in figure. I love both divisions. I would love to do women's physique and not have to hold myself back in doing figure. However, I'm not sure about chasing the dragon. Definitely want to keep my femininity. And I continue to have feelings around the lack of separation between women's physique and women's bodybuilding. Any thoughts are appreciated. Absolutely love your show, all of them, especially being a hardcore bodybuilder. All right.
I'm sorry, I was just reading the comment. I just realized who Matt had emailed me as well, and I completely just blanked on that.
That's I missed his as well too, man.
Well, no, I responded to him about several good ideas of people he should have on his show. He wants it to be a little different than just bodybuilding talk, a little bit more, we'll say, cerebral than what you and I do, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But
so
all right,
here's
back
a
to
front
Chelsea.
shot. Here's a back shot. I'll run through a few more of these. Check this stage shot out.
Yeah, I want to see what she looks like. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem I see, the only thing I see is she's got to work on the lower abdominal distension. And a lot of times with our athletes that we'll say aren't in their young 20s or early 30s, a lot of that just has to do with muscle memory and getting after those vacuums over and over and over again and retraining the muscles. Let's see the top picture.
Do you ever have people do planks?
Yeah.
So I've had people that I found, we started doing vacuums and like we saw some improvement, and then we added planks in, and we don't have to go crazy with them, like 30-second low plank 3 times, at the end of your workout, and then 30-second low plank, 30-second high plank rest 3 times. And just through doing that alone, I found that it has made a difference.
Wait, what are you saying is a low plank versus a high plank?
Down on the elbows versus up on the hands.
I got you.
So it's more of just a transition in a slightly different angle. And I feel like when you've been down on your hands or on your elbows, for 30 seconds, then going up on your hands feels different and allows you to extend it,
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I've started looking into reverse planks, like off of a bench.
What's a reverse? Like a hang?
No, you would keep your body straight, but your lower back kind of would be on the bench, and you just make like a straight line. You'd be like at a 45-degree angle kind of thing.
I never thought of that, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe not 45, 30-degree angle.
Whatever. No one's bringing a protractor out.
Yeah.
What's that picture of her on stage with like several other women?
All right.
In the lineup.
Yeah.
That's her second from the left, is that right?
I'm trying to tell right now. I think yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say conditioning needs to come up, especially in the legs. And then I'm going to stick with what I said about the midsection. Like, do you see the woman next to her in the middle?
Yeah.
The reason why she's in the middle there and the girl next to her.
That girl next to her in the lighter purple.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yeah, they're taper. They're able to pull their abs in. You don't have to be able to do a full vacuum. No one's asking you to do a Bumstead in your figure shot, but you should be able to pull them in a little bit harder to create that nice V shape. The other thing I'm seeing with her, and this is just a simple thing, she's got to be able to pull her trunk or her bottoms up a little bit more, and she can create more of a V taper. Can you pull it up a little bit? Yeah. Do you see how, like, just to give an example, you can tell this woman in the middle is probably very experienced. She's probably done multiple national shows.
Yep.
She's tapered her suit to give her that nice V taper, and it's creating more of an optical illusion to us that she has more of a taper than she really does.
That's a great point, man. Huge point.
Yeah, so if Chelsea were to do that, it would increase her taper. Yep. I see why she's in the mix here. She's got the muscularity.
She's got as much muscle, if not, I think she has more muscle than any of these girls. Look at those legs she has compared to the rest of them.
She just needs like another probably 3 or 4 weeks to really get crazy conditioning to where she walks out there and it's a done deal.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'm with you.
Now, what's funny is her midsection looks better here than it did on stage. So maybe it's an issue of the carb up.
The loading,
Yeah, what they did with food leading into the show, because she's showing, or maybe she's really worked on it since that show, she's showing better abdominal control.
Yeah.
Here is a slight posing thing. See how she's leaning forward a little bit?
I sure do.
Yeah, she's not showing us how big she really is by leaning forward like that.
Okay.
So if she just... I always do this like I'm the one doing it, like I'm the one posing.
Yeah.
But she just needs to arch her chest a little bit more.
Yeah.
And she's going to look bigger, and her taper and structure are just going to improve.
I totally see that, man. Look at those calves, too. She's got some calves on her. Wheels in general, right?
You should see my training partner's calves, dude.
Oh, yeah?
She's got ridiculous calves. Like, way better than mine.
Yeah.
Probably almost as good as yours.
Oh, mine are shrinking, man.
I mean, yours in your prime.
Age. Yeah.
Yours in your prime.
You should have seen me when I was my best.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a bunch of listener questions. And, I didn't mention it. If you're new to our content and you enjoy our shows, we'd love to have you along. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. The bell will let you know that when our stuff comes out. We do have several shows that come out each week. Only if you really like it, though. Like, you don't have to do us any favors. We want to have people here that enjoy our stuff and are learning, and we love teaching you guys this stuff too. Andrew, somebody replied from your IGF comment or topic last episode, a couple episodes ago. It says, I've taken IGF on 3 cycles. The first time was the craziest experience. Crazy full pumps with that insulin-like response that shuttles carbs correctly, and I gained a new level of vascularity at the same body fat that lasted for months after I stopped taking the cycle. Unfortunately, that source went away, and I could never find IGF like that again. That sounds like my story, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why IGF Des and LR3 are still fairly popular or still being sold is because everyone knows someone that had results like that while using it.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, maybe I was just dosing it wrong. Maybe I wasn't taking it bilaterally, or I wasn't using enough, or maybe my source wasn't as good as this person's source. So I do think, I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just saying the multiple times I've tried it, I didn't really see anything. But I keep obviously trying every couple of years because I know someone that is responding from it. And
did you get it from the same place too?
I can't remember now.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I do remember though, man. I'd get really good fullness from it. And I ended up saying to myself, you know what? I just need more shoulders. I'm just going to put it in my shoulders every day, Mm-hmm. And I put it in left one day, right one the next day, in the bathroom at Powerhouse right before I stepped out onto the gym floor.
While staring at the sign that says, any use of illegal compounds will have your membership taken away immediately.
No, I never saw that sign. Never noticed it once.
Okay.
I got to tell you, too. I got to give you an update, man. It says, Scott, I agree. I have tried both with Reta, and I find that once weekly doses does more than smaller more frequently. I'm going back to twice a week, and I get it. But, and I talked to Victoria about this because she had been using semaglutide since 2016, I think. But anyway, she had said that, you do notice that it's not as strong by the end of the week, but she does like the fact that you do get that big spike. You are going to get a bigger spike, bigger overall spike from it. Mm-hmm. And it does have, decent half-life, but I am finding that I do better overall with having the more consistent hum, controlling my hunger and keeping things stable with 2 shots per week of Reta. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I tried it. All right. Could the fact that I've been taking 50 milligrams of Winstrol, 30 Anavar, and 80 mics a day of clenbuterol for 32 days now, plus microdosing Retatrutide for 12 days at 1.6 milligrams per week, by the result of experiencing severe acid reflux for the last 2 days, hiccups that won't stop for hours after eating my meals, and so now I have to throw up. Could all of this be the result of acid reflux and indigestion? I have managed to lose 25 pounds on this cycle while doing 3 hours of Stairmaster a day, 90 in the morning, 90 to 100 minutes at night. Should I stop taking the orals and continue with the Reta along with my 500 tests per week?
3 hours of cardio a day on the stairs.
Ooh, that's a lot of, that's dedication, man.
That's, yeah, you climbing the Statue of Liberty, like, that's wild. I would say, I think his question is, he's asking why is he having the
indigestion.
The indigestion. Yeah, I mean, it could be a combination of both, but my first thought would be the Reta.
Yep.
With the delayed gastric emptying. I would imagine what you're probably experiencing is probably a delay in or food backing up and compounding, bacteria feeding off some of that food and then creating gas and whatnot. And you might be running into a problem where you're going to give yourself SIBO eventually. So my first move is I would cut the Reta.
Yeah.
And I would, it sounds like you've taken a good chunk of fat right off and you're maintaining pretty well. So I would pull the Reta, but be cognizant that you're going to probably get hit with a wave of hunger pretty quickly. So have a plan to deal with that, whether it's, warm tea, which is usually my go-to with athletes is, make sure you're drinking like warm teas or maybe even some decaf coffee if it's later in the day. But that would be my first move. Pull the Reta for 2 weeks and see how you do and if it clears up. If it doesn't, then it's not the Reta. And it's probably the compounded orals that you're taking.
Yeah, and I kind of get it. So he said the Reta for just 12 days now. Listen, if you're already taking two different, let me say this. I'd put it in this order: Retatrutide first, then the Clen and then the Winstrol and Anavar, and the Clen has probably nothing to do with any of this, So
it's the least of it, yeah.
Yeah. So my thought would be, I agree, 100%, pull the Reta out and get your digestion back on track. I would also add a digestive enzyme in if he's not using one already. Yep. I really like the Now Food Super Enzymes that has all your basic amylase, lipase, everything, plus it has like papaya extract and some other things that may or may not be additionally helpful. But it also has a low dose of HCl. And it also
butane hydrochloride.
Yeah, and it has a low dose of
pepsin.
It has that in it too, but it has a low dose of ox bile in it as well. If he's got any fats in there, so it kind of hits everything from those three different angles. And I find it to work really well for people. Just one cap, with a meal, and I'd start with just maybe a couple meals, your two largest meals, and then from there maybe build up. Just to kind of get that food moving better overall and help that digestion. But
I would take the cap, the digestive agent mid-meal too.
You mentioned that before. You talked to somebody who specialized in this, right?
Yeah, I did, and I can't remember who now. But it was a digestive expert who specializes not in bodybuilding, but in digestion in general.
Yeah.
With people who have issues with gastric motility and whatnot. And their advice and what their protocol is to take it mid-meal because you want to get the initial release of the enzymes. You want the pancreas to release the enzymes that it should release. You don't want to trick the pancreas into not releasing them. So you want to get the release, but then you want to supplement it with what it's probably lacking to help with the further digestion of the food. And then the other thing I was going to say is to help with the gastric motility, definitely try some magnesium citrate. Maybe 300 milligrams in the morning with meal one, and then another 300 milligrams with your evening or later afternoon meal, and see if that will help as well with pushing and moving food along. And lastly, staying hydrated, and hydrated meaning not just water, but with electrolytes.
Dude, we probably should have, besides taking the Reta out, I think we should have started there. That's huge, is making sure.
But it sounds like he said that he started noticing the side effect shortly after starting the Reta.
Yeah,
right?
no, take the Reta out, and then like I mentioned, enzymes and HCl, and I think your suggestion of water is probably remove the Reta, make sure your water's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and let me ask you this then. Let's say he gets everything back on track after everything's better. Within 1 week, he says, "Hey, I'm feeling good." What would you do with the Reta then?
Well, I would say what's your goal? Like, are you using it for the appetite suppressing effect, or are you using it to help continue to get leaner or improve some impaired glucose insensitivity, insulin insensitivity? So my answer would be based on that. If he's at the conditioning that he's happy with, then I would say leave it out. We don't need to stay on these compounds forever. Take it out, and then but if he still wants to continue to lose, and he's still, 3 hours of cardio a day, that's a lot, especially if you're not getting on stage. That's dedication.
Yeah.
I would add it back in, but I probably wouldn't go right back to the same dose. I would probably start at maybe half the dose he was taking, and see if you can get the benefits out of it without the side effects.
And I think as far as like what I would do coaching, I wouldn't have somebody running Winstrol and Anavar and Clen at 80 long term. I'd want a better overall plan than that. And we've talked about how I run Clen, and I learned it from my coach, who learned it from Dave Palumbo. I start lower now. He would start at 40. I start at 20, and then a couple weeks later, when we need to make another change, go to 40. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3 weeks. Go to 60, go to 80. I get up to about 100, maybe 120, and then we take a break. But 32 days in to 80 micrograms of Clen doesn't sound like something I would do. What do you think?
Depends on the situation. So like when I'm starting someone out, like an early in prep, I'm probably going to hit them hard for like 20 days, meaning we're going to start with 40, and then every 5 days we're going to bump it up 20 until we get to about 100 or 120.
Yeah.
And I say that the situation I should eradicate on, like the situation would be like, they're not coming to me super insulin sensitive and like dieted before we start the diet.
You need to give them a shove to get it moving.
That's a great way to put it. We need to give them a shove into the hole, and then we'll pull it back out, and we'll rely just on conventional dieting methods to, maybe till about 10 weeks out, and then we'll throw the Clen back in. Then the other thing is, okay, let's say we're 4 weeks out, we're behind, or we're 4 weeks out, and a client's like, I really want to jump into this show, 3 weeks out instead of 4 weeks out.
Yeah.
Okay, we're probably going to hit hard. I'm probably going to skip 20 and 40 mics. I'll probably just jump to 60.
Yeah.
And we'll titrate it up from there. But Clen is funny because everyone has their system, or everyone has their way, and a million different ways work. What you're describing works. Taking it 20 mics, I think Dave does 20 mics with like several meals throughout the day, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Versus one like bolus dose in the morning, or 2 bolus doses throughout the day.
He might now. I don't think he did back then, but that was a long time ago.
I've seen so many protocols work with Clen that I think as a coach, you need to try something that makes sense, and then see if that's working, and then replicate that again like every couple weeks. Meaning, I might run Clen for 10 to 15 days and then pull it out for 7 to 10 days before adding it back in. That's typically what I'll do. And then okay, maybe the way I'm running it's not working, so I need to change a different strategy with how I'm utilizing it. Maybe I need to hit them harder with it and run it for just like 4 days at a time with 4 days off. Yeah. Or I know a lot of people do. A client came to me today. She's doing 2 days on, 1 day off, and then every like 3 weeks she'll take a 5-day stretch off to give the receptors a break. Yeah. So there's a million ways to cut it. I don't know if anyone's right or anyone's completely wrong. I just think you need to look at how your client's reacting to it and keep programming appropriately.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. I think for him too, it's like if he is doing that much cardio, like what, and I'm not saying like, but what is going on with the diet is, it sounds like he's really having to like force his body to make the progress. I just wonder if there's something else up, like, where's your thyroid at and stuff like that.
To me, if someone's doing 3 hours of cardio, and they're not just like at that last 10 days just to get that last bit off to be just completely peeled, the answer isn't to keep push harder. The answer is to pull back, right? I would imagine, and he can try this, I would give yourself a full 5 days off of cardio, and I would bump your carbs up probably double what you're eating. So let's just pretend like he's eating 2 50-gram carb meals a day out of his 6 meals. I would say add another 50 grams to 2 other meals and just monitor for that 4 or 5 days. Maybe pull back on your training even. I would actually insist that 2 of those days are non-training days at the minimum, if not 3 out of the 5 that were taken off. And I'm going to probably push KSM 66 at you. Ooh. I'm not even going to have you stick to your step goal. If your step goal is 10K a day, I'm probably going to say let's pull it back to 5 and don't even really keep track.
Yeah.
And I want you to sleep in and get to bed early. So that's I want to give the adrenals a break.
I think that could be possibly. I mean, it depends on how long he's been doing this too, but I think that could be a really good move. It's hard sometimes for somebody to take that advice when they know, like, I'm afraid I'm going to get fat, you know. Yeah. But I something along those lines, I think, could probably be a good move.
I can give you an example. Like, I get lots of women that have been pushing, you know, hour and a half of cardio a day, you know, 30 to 50 grams of carbs total, and they've been stuck gaining and losing the same 1 pound for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, right? And I'm like, my first move is pull all the cardio out. We're going to pull your training to 3 very low intensity sessions this week. No step goals, but I do want you to go outside and get a walk in the sunlight. And, you know, by the end of the week, they're down 2.5 pounds. And that just boggles them because it never crossed their mind that doing less and pulling back and resting the adrenals was what was needed, you know. And you got to admire that their mindset was, no, I'll just work harder. I got to work harder. You know, they're willing to do the work, but sometimes the work isn't the answer. Sometimes pulling back is the answer.
Yep, I'm with you 100% on that, man. All right, my girlfriend was stuck at 135 for weeks. Clean diet and exercise goal was 128. Gave her 1 milligram of Reta, another Reta question per week, and in 2 weeks, boom, 6 pounds off. Oh shoot, I lost my question. Hold on, just a second. I'm coming back.
So she lost 6 pounds. She's exceeded her goal basically.
Yeah, 6 pounds off, and from there, what does she say? Stuff is crazy. She didn't like the way she felt, though. Very tired and sleeping more. 120 ounces of water per day, electrolytes, and collagen.
Did you say anything about PEDs?
Nothing about PEDs. Nothing about...
Other than Reta.
Yeah. No, nothing about diet either or anything else.
Well, I mean...
but she's eating clean, I think. Yeah, clean diet and exercise.
Well, just the very nature of prep. And you got to think... I try to use this metaphor of the day, right? We're up for 16, 17 hours out of the day, and then we got to sleep for 6, 7 hours, 8 hours if we can, to regenerate for the next day. And if we break our time of dieting into like these little, like, let's say 3 or 4 week mesocycles, where, okay, we can push hard for 3 out of those weeks, but we got to kind of pull back at some point for at least a slightly extended period of time to allow the adrenals to rest, to be able to have another push again, you know? I mean, all of our diets are really, contest prep is just a series of, you know, digging deep and then pulling back, digging deep and pulling back. And we're pulling back to confuse the brain into thinking that we're not doing all this work, right? Yeah. That's essentially what we're trying to do, is confuse the brain and the body into thinking, oh, okay, it's safe now. We can liberate some energy. He's not just storing all this energy and pushing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Right.
I missed the question. Is she stalling?
The what?
I just reading Matt Sharp's question.
Oh.
I missed the question. Is she stalling? But it sounds like she didn't stall. She dropped 6 pounds, and now she's just kind of fatigued out of it.
Yeah, I think that's her main concern, is the fatigue. Yeah. Oh, this might get you started. I don't want to get you started on the pharmaceutical industry, but I think you're going to find this one interesting, man.
Probably.
In reference to Janoschik and testing gear, I've used him a lot with the business that I'm in, and as an experiment, just to check Jano's accuracy, I sent in Walgreens Pharma brand Watson Test Sip 200 milligrams. I was assuming that it would be a great benchmark, but to my surprise, it came back at 189 milligrams. And I know that legally FDA is allowed 5% margin of error to be above or below claims. But just to make sure it wasn't a one-off inaccuracy in the lab measurements, I sent in 3 samples from 3 different bottles of Watson. All 3 of the 200 milligram sip came back at 189 to 191 milligrams. And knowing they're allowed a 5% margin of error, the conclusion I drew is that it's far too much of a coincidence that they are consistently 5% under. It seems to be rather deliberate. And when you're dealing with millions of bottles, little bit could add up. Sounds like pharma's getting greedy in that situation, just saving a penny a bottle times a million.
Not necessarily, and I'll tell you what I think is, because you know when you get a 200 milligram bottle of per cc bottle of Test Sip, it's not 200 milligrams of testosterone. It's 100, and I think they're actually accurately dosed for what you're getting, right? Like when you say, oh, I'm taking 900 milligrams of test a week, you're not actually injecting 900 milligrams of testosterone because you're taking into account the oils that you're injecting as well. The ester weight, exactly. So they're expected to be a little bit lower.
Are they?
Yeah. And the fact that every single bottle came back at 189 tells me that that the precision is there. So
yeah,
I don't think that I don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I found too is that sometimes, I'm not sure what brand I have here, but it's Pharma, and 2 milliliter vials or 1 milliliter vials, and they're all like 1.2 almost. It's like 1.1, 1.15. There's a little bit more than a mil in each bottle.
Okay. Like, do we know what type of testosterone it is?
Watson.
He said. But are they cypionate?
Yeah, test sip.
All right. Just because I couldn't remember the exact number, but I just did a quick search, and if you're asking about this is for enanthate, a 250 milligram bottle of testosterone enanthate contains approximately 180 milligrams of actual testosterone. This is because the testosterone enanthate molecule includes the enanthate ester attached to the testosterone molecule. The ester adds weight, so a 250 milligram dose of testosterone E contains a lower amount of active substance.
So it's the raw test is that, but I would figure that you were testing for how much test E is in there. That's what I assumed. You know what I mean?
Well, so what I'm saying is, I bet if you look at the packaging on Watson's 200 milligram testosterone, it'll say active ingredient 189 or somewhere around that, 180 something milligrams of testosterone, and then it'll also say the ester.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't think they're cheating. I would love to say they are. Trust me. Like I think that they're all scumbags, but I don't think in this case they're doing anything faulty here. You know,
and it's
like okay, when I go and get my green tea supplement and it says it's 600 milligrams of green tea, but then it'll say 180 milligrams of actual catechin, which is the active ingredient.
Right. No, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've got another one for you. Has anyone tried injectable SLU PP332 yet?
I have not, because I've just been so pleased with the oral.
I thought you started with the injectable. I
found a company before I found parabolic peptides, I think through you, where I was going to buy a bunch of raw powder because you could just buy it, and I was just going to make my own preparations and sterilize it and then inject it.
Okay, I thought you ended up still getting his injectable version. All right.
Well, and the issue is though, and I know people are doing experiments online.
Yeah.
To use the same amounts that are done in rat studies, it ends up being quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And my fear is that I don't need my mitochondria to run wild. I want them efficient.
Yeah.
I don't need them. I don't need to run myself into metabolic disease. Yeah. And I don't want to be the one that does that and
teaches the rest of us.
Exactly. I'm a don't get greedy. Take what you can get, but don't get greedy about it. And I've been very pleased with the SLU oral.
I took a break from it. I had been running it since I discovered it back in January, and I was doing really, really well. And then I just felt like I just wasn't getting the same bump out of it anymore. I wasn't getting the same benefit and the same cognitive boost. So I took a break, and while I was taking a break, I tried 5-amino M1MQ. I honestly, man, I dosed this stuff up to a relatively high dose. I didn't get anything at all out of it, I don't think. So I know that some people have, but hey, it just goes to show that I guess everybody's different. Have you had any experience with the 5-amino?
I have not taken it, but I have many clients that have taken it, and not a zilch.
Okay.
I think the 5-MQ and some of these other compounds are more hype and more in lab rats, more in theory this will happen, but I don't think they pan out in actual human studies on themselves.
Yeah, I've heard people talking about it like crazy, it was this new great thing, and have you tried it and all that. So I was saving it, and I didn't find I got much from it. One I have gotten a lot from is Dada, though. and I found
that one seems more appealing.
Yeah, I like it, and I've used it intermittently, and I found some really good benefit from it. I was going to try another experiment. I got some MK677. I hadn't used it in years, Andrew, like years, right? And my thought was, so after, Scott and I talked about it years back, a few years ago, and we found that in some studies it showed that you would definitely get benefit after a day. A lot of people would, but then after a week, some people were getting nothing from it. Mm-hmm. And this new podcast we discovered that you may get more benefit if you're older and not producing as much growth. So I thought, okay, maybe that could be beneficial to me. And some of these people who were older were getting great benefits for like a year off 5 milligrams. And I thought, well, if I know it's going to work, hopefully, like after one dose, what if I were to use this just intermittently to get like an additional GH boost on, say, an extra hard training day, right? Mm. So I have the stuff and I save it and I wait and I take it, and then I woke up 5 times that night because I was starving, man. Oh, wow. I forgot how much the appetite would increase. Dude, man, I'm going to go back to that. We have so many people that ask us, like, what should I take for appetite? Yeah. And when I used it in the past, man, it was way back in the day, like when I was eating a ton of food already. So maybe I didn't notice the difference, but dude, dieting and trying to take a tab of MK, oh my God, man. I was like, okay, I'll just eat a half a rice cake so I can get back to sleep, I'll have a scoop of protein so I can get back to sleep. I probably had additional freaking 300 calories by the time I went to bed and got up.
For me, it was always do a little bit of fat when you wake up starving, because it's going to cause you to release CCK, cholecystokinin, which is going to interfere with the appetite signaling and shut down your appetite a little bit better. Yeah. But with the MK, me and Scott did a call, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Okay. And maybe a little bit less, maybe it's 5 years ago. And we jumped on Zoom and we were going through studies together, like we do sometimes, like we have done in the past about a few things. And or maybe it was a phone call and we were looking at studies together, but either way, I think what we settled on was the best way to dose MK was every other day. And maybe he's changed his opinion since then, but due to I think the overlapping and receptor desensitization, we thought that if you're dosing it every other day and probably a little bit lower than people typically dose it, you're gonna get more of an additive benefit than if you're to take 25 or 40 milligrams every day. Maybe 10 milligrams every other day is going to allow for a bigger boost.
Yeah, and like I said, man, we saw the study that was even 5 milligrams, but Modern Amino had the standard 25 milligram cap, so that's what I got, and I wasn't gonna break it open in the middle, at night. And it's just I'm gonna take 25, whatever, go to sleep. I did wake up feeling like $1 million though. Every time I've taken MK, man, I wake up feeling just amazing. I get the best rest, even though I woke up 5 times. I felt good. I felt that good, like I took GABA the night before sleep, where you feel super like it was a deep restful sleep.
That's the best.
Yeah.
You ever use gabapentin?
Oh yeah, I've been prescribed.
Do you hear that?
Oh yeah, I heard that.
The skies are opening.
It was the Lord coming for you.
Yeah, it is hurricane season.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, have you ever tried Mirabegron?
No, I have one client that's running it though. What do you think about it?
I like it, and I'm not someone that gets upset about waking up to. My power just went out. Hopefully my internet stays on.
If we lose Andrew, guys, you know what happened. Ty's with us. He might be using it.
But it does help with not waking up to have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, for sure.
Multiple times a night. I don't wake up. Actually last night I slept the whole night through, which is crazy.
It's an incontinence medication, right?
Yeah, it relaxes smooth muscle tissue like the bladder to allow more urine to build up versus giving you that signaling of, I gotta go. So yeah, you know what? I just realized I am so happy. Last week, I think I told you, I switched to fiber optic.
Oh yeah.
And that's why my internet didn't go out. My power went out. Oh. But my internet is still working perfectly.
Holy crap! Your internet's working perfect, and you're on a laptop, so you didn't lose the power.
No, that's that. Wow. So I'm very happy. Thank you, Frontier, for coming to my house and soliciting me, because usually I usually chase them out the door for coming to my doorstep. But
yeah, we're gonna get one of those no soliciting signs for that very reason.
Right. The other thing about Mirabegron is that it also hits your brown adipose tissue, so there's some fat loss pathways there too.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's, been used lately as for
Yes.
fat loss. But I didn't realize it was specifically focused on brown fat.
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. And honestly, zero side effects. I've
Okay.
been using it for 2 weeks now, and zero side effects. And one more thing I want to say about the Slew.
Yeah.
I do like a 5 days on, 2 days off.
Okay.
I feel like you're going to get a longer use out of it. I haven't stopped taking it because it's not like I'm seeing like these additive benefits still, but I'm maintaining a really lean look on next to no other PEDs, and I have to attribute a lot of that to the Slew.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing really good results with, right now, I have 3 guys that are going to be competing later in the season, and that they're off cycle right now, preparing to get into their contest cycle. And we've started it already, during this phase of TRT. I think it gives them a mental boost to have that in. They're getting endurance from it. They're getting positive benefits. And I feel like that's just creating this really great momentum, and we haven't even added anabolics. I think I mentioned that a few weeks back, but it's a good place to be, man.
It's a great place to be when you're looking good and you don't have a lot of gear in you.
Yeah.
And because you just know, the fullness is going to come back even stronger. The hardness, your training is going to get better. All of it, And I think you do the same thing where you really try to encourage your clients to get the most out of the least for as long as they can, and then we add the PEDs in when variables stop improving, and you're like, wow, that's where the synergy really happens.
I agree 100%. Hey, on the Mirabegron, how are you dosing that?
50 mgs a day.
Okay, and do you just take that all at once in the morning, or how does that work?
I take it when I remember.
Okay.
So it has been in the morning, but for a while there, when I try something new, for some reason I leave it right here by my desk,
right?
So I don't end up taking it consistently at the same exact time. I take it when I look up and I see it.
Oh yeah, that's me.
But now, exactly. It's one of those things where I don't know, when it's a new compound, I feel like I want to be able to look at it and I'm going to do some more research on it, as I'm testing it,
Yep, I'm with you on that 100%, man. Yeah. Hey, did you have another question? We had actually it was another shout out too, wasn't it? And we had a question. Let me grab this photo.
Question here about HDL.
Okay, and I'm going to open this photo up so we've got it. But yeah, we can go to the HDL question. What was it here? Question about lipids. I have fixed my LDL, but my HDL is in the 20s. What have you guys done to raise it that actually worked? I'm already maxed out on cardio deep in a cut.
Okay. Well, first, if he's saying he's maxed out on cardio, what I would do is I would definitely switch to HIIT if he's not doing any HIIT, because that's going to get your HDL boosted more than steady state even. Okay.
Yeah.
But do you have my picture that I showed you in my labs?
Yeah. Give me just a minute here. I'm going to pull that up.
So, guys, not that I'm a heavy user, but I think I was running probably about 1,000 milligrams total PED for probably several months before this, and then I found out that I needed to get some labs done for disability and a new life insurance policy. So obviously I wanted to clean them up and get them as good as possible, because your rate is determined on your health status, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the top, there's 2 pictures here. I should have put a line in there. But the first picture is from 4/21/2025. So April 21st, my HDL was 25, my LDL was 143.
Yep.
So not what you want to see, right? And then if you look at the bottom date, 6/2/2025, so about 5.5 weeks later, my HDL was back up to 46 and my LDL was cut down to 73. What did I do different?
Holy crap.
I didn't add any different cardio strategies because I was already doing 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week, and I've just been maintaining that. And with the Slew that I'm taking and the way I diet, I'm able to maintain a nice, fairly lean look that way. But I was already using some of your supplements like, citrus bergamot.
Dude, I found citrus bergamot to have a really positive impact. Since I haven't run a lot of gear, I've been running it long term, and my HDL just sits in like the 40s now, no problem. I mean, years ago, it used to be like 25 and struggling.
Yeah. Whenever I use anything above, let's say, 300 milligrams of testosterone, my HDL is what slides.
Okay.
So for me to see a 25 after maybe 10 to 12 weeks of around 1,000 milligrams total of PED, that was normal for me. In contest prep with everything going on, I think I got it as low as 13 one time. A
lot of orals will do that to you real quick too.
Orals and some AIs and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, I have a stack that I use, and a lot of my clients will use this when we see poor labs like this. Citrus bergamot, 1,200 milligrams AM and PM.
Okay.
Fish oil, 3 grams AM and PM.
Are you when you say AM and PM, are you saying you'll do 3 grams in the AM and 3 in the PM, or
Yes.
3 split? Okay, just double
Yeah,
check.
yeah. Sorry. So
Okay.
3 grams with like meal 1, 3 grams with meal 5 or 6.
Okay, great.
Same thing with the citrus bergamot, 1,200 with my first meal, 1,200 with a later meal.
Okay.
Cardarine I hit fairly hard at 20 milligrams in the AM and 10 milligrams PM.
Okay.
Pycogenol I added 100 milligrams both AM and PM.
I don't know that one.
French maritime bark, you might know it as.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I can't remember exactly what it's something similar to like green tea, like the proanthocyanins that are in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Kyolic aged garlic, 600 milligrams AM and PM. Green tea, 2 cups a day. And then green tea extract, another 400 milligrams a day. Cortisol QR, which is a patented form of ubiquinol, 600 milligrams a day, and then berberine, 500 milligrams AM and PM.
Nice.
And that's my stack that I use to basically almost double my HDL and cut my LDL in half in about 5.5 weeks.
Nice.
So,
Now, I don't want to take away anything from the other supplements, but I would be just very curious if you just did the Cardarine on its own compared to that. And you know what I mean? I would just be curious because I've seen Cardarine on its own like really ramp it up fast for me.
So I can tell you for me personally, Cardarine on its own does not, it works.
But
it
not like
would,
that.
It would have brought me back up to like maybe 36 instead of 46, you know?
Yeah.
But this is a similar stack that I've ran several times when like I really wanted to fix something fast. Like I wanted to get it done in 5. Because I remember I did a cycle, I think I told you guys about when I combined like Test, Deca, and Tren in the same cycle.
Oh, yeah.
And that one really tanked my HDL. So I did something similar, but I updated the protocol a little bit to what I just mentioned a second ago.
Nice, man. Well, that's like literally like nearly doubled. You know, I mean, that's incredible.
I can only imagine because I'm going to get my labs done in I think 10 days is when I'm scheduled, and I'm going to be. I would love to see if it gets to 50.
That'd be cool, man. All right, we got one more thing here, and it is a shout out to. Is this one of the guys in the group?
I'm sorry. The bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw his pictures in the post. This was actually earlier than when he competed. He competed this last weekend. His name is Anthony James. He's a good bodybuilder in the Northeast.
Yeah,
he won. Yeah, he won one of the New York shows, and I'm sorry if I'm not remembering the name, but he beat another good athlete who's a former client of mine, who also is coached by a friend of mine, Mike Nassif. He beat him in the overall in bodybuilding, Josh Matusik, who's also a listener. So both gentlemen looked amazing on stage. They were both in condition. They were both. So this picture, I believe, was taken like 3 or 4 weeks before the show.
Really?
So he came in nice. And if you read the caption, he's doing North Americans this year, and I think he's got a good shot.
The Lord's on his side. He just cheered for him.
Yeah. The Lord just fucking gave you some thunder, buddy. So, and I believe he's coached by Justin Jacoby, so they did a great job.
Okay. Yeah, his conditioning is outstanding, especially considering like he could go into the show with this no problem, but 3 weeks out, man, you know that those glutes got even harder, and you know, look at the way his lumbars are sticking out.
I know. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's pretty cool.
If he wants a critique and wants my 2 cents, you know, I would say he needs a little bit more in that upper back and like the teres region just to match the poppiness that he has in the rest of his physique.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking though because you know, when he's dried out, that they probably stick out, you know, the muscles probably pop out at you even more.
Yeah.
There's another good one.
Yeah, man, this is interesting that we were literally getting to witness Florida hurricane right now.
What's crazy is it's not even raining yet.
Really?
No.
Go outside and hold your laptop up. And
should I put on my tin hat too?
Yeah, all that. It'll be, you know, we'll get a good thumbnail for the.
Yeah, that would be sick. That would be sick.
Man, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Andrew, do you have space for coaching right now still?
Yeah, I mean, if it's the right fit, I'm always open to entertaining conversations with people. It's been crazy busy. I mean, I think I've lost like probably 3 clients, but I added like 7 in the last 10 days. So
Wow.
trying to stay on top of getting new programs. So if I've told you I'm going to get you a new program by this weekend, I promise I will. I'm working very hard and diligently. I do have to stop at times to chat with my friend Scott here and,
I appreciate
and give you
that,
guys
man.
some great information.
I appreciate that. You know, I used to try to like get somebody's program out to them like same day. You know, because I know
Yeah.
like Shelby will do that. But
Yeah.
honestly, I tell people now that I can get you set up in about a week. I usually take Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll have one of those days is usually going to be pretty light for me.
Yep.
And that's the day I want to do it because I get to like sit back and relax and I get to have fun with it. I think that I'm not taking as many clients as you on. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm trying to keep it fun. But
Yeah.
I do tell them it'll be like about a week. How long do you usually take turnaround time to get somebody started?
Man, it depends. So if someone's like in a prep and they're like, let's say they're in an issue with a coach and they're 4 weeks out.
That's
and,
different, yeah.
So I had one of those today that I did, and usually I do ask for a premium on that. I do ask for a little extra,
Yeah.
because it means I'm probably pushing off some of my check-ins and, I'm working till 11 o'clock.
Yep.
So it is like it's not like I'm just being lazy or I just want more money. It's like I'm going to be burning the candle at both ends for this, and
Yeah.
probably my cardio or my training is going to suffer in some way.
Yep.
But usually I tell people, you know, within a week you're going to get a plan
Okay.
from me.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think
and a
that's
lot of
very
times I
fair.
start with just like an intro of like, okay, let me just quickly look at what you're doing. Okay, do this, but change these 2 things, and then I'm going to give you a more in-depth plan that we can really work with going forward.
Yeah. Or sometimes if they're already doing something pretty good, you know, you might just need to make those small adjustments, or maybe we change a few carb sources out or something,
Yeah.
you know, but if somebody has a good structure to their plan already, I'm not going to come in and, especially if they already have a good physique, like, you know, an experienced bodybuilder, I'm not going to tell
Yeah.
them like, hey, we need to reinvent this whole thing, you know?
I mean, that's an easy case. It's also a really easy situation when someone has been eating 3 meals a day of like Chipotle, McDonald's,
Yeah.
and Wendy's. So you're like, oh, this is easy. Let's go 4 clean meals a day and start there and add a couple steps in. You're going to see progress. The hard ones are where someone comes to you and they're eating chicken and vegetables only, and they're on 85 or 100 mics of T3 and 100
Right.
mics of Clen, and they're like, my body's stalled, and like, you know, and my show's in 4 weeks. What do I do?
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah.
you get those situations, and you gotta, and like we said earlier in the episode, a lot of times it's a matter of, we got to pull back, and hopefully we have enough time to pull back and then hit you hard again before the show.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we just got to pick a different show.
Yeah, that's sometimes the case too. Guys, reach out to Andrew at bodyberry.com. Skip's not with us because we record a couple episodes at once, so he was still at the dentist probably. You can reach out to him, though, at teamskip.com, and you can hit me up at mcnallydiets@gmail.com. We'd all be happy to talk. And, of course, truenutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there. Supplementsource.ca for Canadians. Thank you to everybody from Patreon. And glad we could get those listener critiques up from Patreon. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you for giving to us. I'm glad we could give something back to you. And for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we'll see you soon. Thanks as always, Andrew.
Thank you.
And I got to tell you too, man, as much as I love when we have the group together, I like the one-on-one conversation, and it's fun because I can kind of pick your brain a little bit more, and like even the Clen thing, I might not change what I'm doing, but I still love hearing how you do it.
I agree.
And it kind of gets me thinking, you know.
For lack of a gay term, it's a little more intimate, you know. It's where you can have more of a real discussion, and I mean, I like all of it. I like the group. I like one-on-ones. I like it all. So I look like I'm literally dead. Like the lighting.
Yeah.
The lighting is set up to make me look like dead.
Hold on just a second there. All right.
Like I'm like.